Hey everyone, Espero here, and welcome back to my channel. We got a new summer banner that just dropped last night, and as per usual, we'll be getting a new Tempest trial starting up shortly as well. You know that I love to talk about the free units we always get, and so for today's video, we will of course be taking a look at Rhys. Rhys is one of the very few male healers we have in the Fire Emblem universe, and though I'm excited he finally got into the game somehow, I was really hoping he'd be followed by Boyd and Gatry. Still, his art looks fantastic, and I'm sure that many players, myself included, can't wait to actually use him. Rhys is making his FEH debut as an infantry staff user. At 5 stars, level 40, his neutral stats read as HP 44, attack 34, speed 27, defense 21, and resistance 36. And remember that because he is a free unit, he will be locked to neutral stats. Now, right off the bat, my eyes are immediately drawn to his resistance. 36 res is pretty solid to begin with and will certainly allow him to tank through some magical threats. Should you decide to invest in his res, I could definitely see him soaking up some magical damage for your melee allies. His HP is fine. 44 is more than what I would have expected from him since his actual character is very sickly and frail. 34 attack is also fine. It's not the highest attack among staff users, but you can definitely work with it. He's also got a fantastic weapon which adds to his overall stat spread, but we'll talk about that in just a second. His defense is unsurprisingly low given what we know about his character, and his speed is also unfortunately low. With 27 speed, he's going to be getting doubled very frequently, but especially thanks to his weapon, we'll see that his speed is much more salvageable than it appears. So this finally brings us over to the inheritable weapon he comes with, the Palm Staff Plus. It's literally a palm tree. This staff has 12 might and automatically inflicts attack and speed -5 to all enemies within a 2-tile radius during combat. Once again, we are getting a really solid free weapon with this month's unit. This is the first time in a while that we've seen a staff so offensively oriented, since the last one we got from Silk, the Rapport Wand, I believe it was called, was very support oriented. What's especially nice about this staff is that Rhys doesn't even have to engage in combat in order for his allies to benefit from this effect. He does have to be close enough to the enemies for its effect to activate, but with this staff he's got the flexibility of being support or offense oriented. Furthermore, because the enemy is inflicted with -5 attack and speed, that basically translates to Rhys having 32 speed, 26 defense, and 41 resistance. That's a very solid stat spread for a healer, making him deceptively bulkier and making him that much faster, especially for a free unit. So we're definitely going to have some fun building him. We do still, of course, have the rest of his build to go over. In his assist slot, Rhys comes with Physic Plus, which heals HP equal to 50% of his base attack. The catch is that it has a range of 2, meaning that you can heal your allies while maintaining a safe distance from the enemy. Definitely a solid assist skill that I'm glad to see getting a little bit more accessibility. In his special slot, Rhys comes with Heavenly Light, which has a cooldown cost of 2, and upon activation, restores 10 HP to all allies regardless of where they are on the map. This is actually a pretty solid special for him because as an infantry unit, he doesn't have the same movement range as a lot of the popular cavalry healers, meaning that this will add to his overall utility and will better help him keep his allies alive. Now, in his A slot, Rhys comes with Brazen Attack and Resistance 3, which grants him attack and res +7 in combat when his health falls below 80%. This skill suits Rhys pretty damn well actually, as I think a lot of players, myself included, are gonna be using Rhys to soak up some magic damage. With his Brazen skill, he's gonna be very bulky and tanking through magical threats, so this is actually a pretty nice skill for him to come with right out of the box. And lastly, this brings us to his C skill, which is Drive Res 2, which grants +3 resistance to all allies within 2 spaces during combat. It's a nice little support-oriented skill, and in a way it does synergize with his kit, seeing as how all of his skills allow him to function from 2 spaces away. However, I will be quick to replace this, as there are other C skills worth slotting in instead. Okay, and that completes his base kit. Thanks to his weapon, we've got quite a lot of options for how to build him, which isn't super frequent with staff units, so let's start playing around with some skills and get onto our first build. So build number 1 is going to be our budget build, as Rhys doesn't actually need a whole lot of investment to perform well. Of course, we are keeping his palm staff, however I have slapped a Wrathful Staff Refine on it, which will calculate his damage like other units. For any new players out there who don't know, staff users by default only deal 50% damage. They're sort of nerfed in that respect, and so they depend on Wrathful Staff as a skill or refine in order to deal 100% damage. Next up, you'll notice that we're keeping both Physic and Heavenly Light, as they both perform well, and if you're low on resources or just don't want to invest that heavily into him, you can still get a lot of mileage out of these two skills alone. This brings us to our A skill, which I did swap out. Staff users in general want solid speed, regardless of whether they're built for offense or support. High speed means they can double when attacking, and also avoid getting doubled when playing support. Rhys is no exception, which is why I decided to swap out his Brazen Attack Res for Brazen Attack Speed instead. It has the exact same conditions, but boosts his speed up instead. In most cases, I would prefer to pair a Brazen skill with a Fury or a Push skill, but with his base resistance, I think that it'll be fairly easy for him to take some magical damage and comfortably fall into Brazen range. It's for that reason that you'll notice that we're doubling in on this strategy and slapping Brazen Attack Speed also in his S slot. This means that once he falls into Brazen range, we're getting an additional plus 14 attack and speed. This doesn't even factor in the effects from his Palm Staff, which brings his stats up even higher in combat. Pretty good stuff, honestly. Moving on to his B skill, I decided to plug in Dazzling Staff, which prevents the foe from counterattacking on the player phase. It's pretty straightforward, but it can be especially useful once he's already fallen into Brazen range. And lastly, we've got his C skill, Odd Attack Wave 3. Wave skills in general are very budget friendly and can give Rhys some extra oomph to further boost his attack on odd number turns. Now, that's it for our budget build. However, I did want to bring up two alternative skills that are worth mentioning. One of the new seals that we're getting from this month's Tempest Trial is Brazen Speed and Resistance, which is another great option for Rhys's S slot. In case you want to beef up his res some more and are willing to sacrifice some of his attack power, this is another great option for him that will better allow him to tank and still avoid being doubled. Definitely what I would recommend if you're planning on building him for support. And lastly, this isn't a budget-friendly alternative, but I do want to bring up Attack Speed Push 4 as a possible upgrade for later down the road. I feel like I talk about push skills too often, but they really are some of the best A skills for healers right now, especially with how limited their options are. This push skill in particular would grant Rhys attack and speed plus 7, but also chip down his HP after each round of combat, allowing him to safely fall into Brazen range without having to perform on the enemy phase. It's what I plan on throwing on my Mercedes once I've got the right fodder, and it's a strategy that I personally love and thought it was worth mentioning. Anyway, that is it for our budget build. Not gonna lie, it's pretty solid. However, this video would be much shorter and a lot less interesting if I only had one build for you guys. So let's swap some skills around and let's take a look at build number 2. Okay, so for build number 2, I shuffled a few things around. I slapped a Dazzling Refine on the staff, in case you only have Wrathful fodder, of course. They are interchangeable, so it doesn't really matter. Now, this build is reliant on Rhys being directly adjacent to his allies, an idea that's best reaffirmed thanks to his A and S skills. Attack Speed Bond 3 and 4 are our choices for this build, and with Attack Speed Bond 4 in particular, we get the added effect of neutralizing any penalties to his attack and speed in combat, which might be pretty nice with all the chill and snag skills that we've been getting lately. Keep in mind that with these two skills, we're looking at plus 12 attack and speed in combat, which is 2 points less than our Brazen build, but there's no HP requirement, so there's that. Jumping back up to our assist skill, I replaced Physic with Restore Plus. I figured that since we're already trying to keep Rhys adjacent to his allies, Physic might not be the best option for him, so Restore Plus is my go-to choice, as it also neutralizes any negative status effects on his allies. As for a special, I decided to run with Miracle. It's got a cooldown cost of 5, which is high, but it prevents him from being killed by the enemy's first lethal blow. Staff users don't get access to any offense-oriented specials, and so Miracle ends up being a really nice option for them as it gives him that extra survivability, especially since Rhys is gonna wanna be getting fairly close to the enemies for his staff's effects to trigger. And lastly, this brings us over to our C skill, which is entirely flexible. Since our build already requires Rhys to be adjacent to his allies, I thought it might be fun to throw in Infantry Rush 3 as a good support option. I don't see it run on a lot of units, but it's great in that it gives his allies the Heavy Blade effect, allowing them to build their specials that much faster. Of course, this slot is flexible, so if you're not on an infantry team, you're more than welcome to plug in Close Guard, Distant Guard, an Oath skill, or, God forbid, if you've got a spare Lilith lying around, Joint Drive Attack, which would be pretty damn spicy. Whatever suits the needs of your team. Okay, and that is it for build number 2. Just wanted to give you guys some other options to play around with. Thanks to his staff, Rhys has quite a lot of flexibility to him, and so I can definitely see players building him in a variety of different ways. Anyway, here are what his stats look like when fully merged. Unsurprisingly, his resistance gets pretty high, allowing us to allocate more into his speed, which I definitely think he needs. He's a really solid unit, and I am 100% definitely going to be building him up. I like to coordinate my teams by theme, and I've been wanting a summer staff unit for some time now to support my summer Wolt. What about you guys? Do any of you guys plan on building him up? Please let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you were able to get something out of it. If you like what you see, please consider giving this video a thumbs up as it really helps me out with YouTube's algorithm. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel, or even joining our Discord server. We've got a great little Fire Emblem group going on in there and are always welcoming new people. Invite link is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Happy saving, happy summoning, and take care.